All right, so as you'll see from your book, I've renamed our section 14.2. We're really going to focus on rational and irrational numbers. So before we do that, we need to define what are rational and irrational numbers. So rational numbers are numbers that can be turned into a fraction. Irrational numbers are numbers that cannot be turned into a fraction. All right, so for example, a rational number might be already a fraction, like 2/3, or 7, because we can write anything as a fraction by doing 7 over 1. Even decimals, right, like 0.25, that's a rational number. Irrational numbers, the most famous one is pi, but we also have things that still have square roots in them. So like the square root of 5, for example, is irrational because we can't break it down and pull out any whole numbers. Even the square root of 6 is irrational because even though you can break that down to 2 and 3, there's no pairs there, so it's just going to stay the square root of 6. Okay, so we want to look at this table, and it says this is an addition table. So notice up here, this is telling me that this is addition. And what I want to do is note if we're going to have rational or irrational numbers. So the first thing I want us to do, you're just going to go through and group two things together in this table to fill it out. So they've done one for you. -1 pi plus -1 pi is -2 pi. All right, if I do another one, negative pi plus 7, I can't reduce that, so that is the answer. Negative pi plus 1/4. All right, there's my answer. So you're going to finish this table, and let's compare kind of what we got. So pause the video, and I want you to take a minute to finish writing out all of the addition problems. It is going to take you a minute, so please pause the video to make sure that you do that. All right, so now take a moment to check your table. And what I'd like for you to do is put a star next to any of the little addition problems that you weren't really sure about. Any of the ones that maybe you got wrong or you're not sure where I got the answer from. Okay, the last thing we want to do is figure out which numbers in our table, which sums, are rational numbers. So I'm going to take my highlighter, and you can take a colored pencil if you need to, and we're just going to highlight which ones of these are rational numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with the outside. Remember, rational are like your most basic numbers. They can be fractions. So 7, 1/4, and 0. Those appear to be my only rational numbers. All right, so the same on the top. 7, 1/4, and 0. And what we want to do is find all of the rational numbers on the inside. So anything with pi isn't going to count. That's going to be an irrational number. So the whole first row, I got to skip it. All right, I've got this right here in this first cell. That's got a pi in it, so that doesn't count. 14, all right, that's going to be rational. The fraction, the whole number, those are all rational. And then remember, if we have things that don't break down into square roots, those are irrational. So my square root of 3 numbers don't count either. So if I look through, basically I need to avoid anything that has pi or square root of 3. All right, so I'm just going to go through and highlight anything that does not have pi or square root of 3 as being rational. Square root of 3, square root of 3, square root of 3, square root of 3, 0. All right, and then again down here. Okay, so those are all of my rational numbers. So now I want you to take a second to think about question C. It says the sum of two rational numbers. All right, so that means you're taking like 7 and 1/4, right? 1/4 or 0. So if you're starting with two rational numbers, think about the answer that you're getting. So the sum of two rational numbers, and then I want you to fill this in. Sometimes, always, or never rational. What do you think based on the table? All right, now go back and look at the table again. Try to answer questions D and E. Irrational and rational and irrational. What do those combinations get you? And is it that they always get you rational or irrational, or does it depend? In some cases it works, and in some cases it doesn't. All right, and then question F down here, is asking us to do the very same thing. It looks a little bit different because this time they're asking me to do multiplication. All right, they're asking me to multiply those numbers. So what I want you to do for tomorrow, actually, let's go ahead and do this right now. Go ahead and fill out this multiplication table with all of the ones that you know. And then, so pause, fill out the ones you know, and then if you will, unpause and you can check the ones that you weren't sure about. Let's make sure we got the right things. All right, so again, what I want for you to do is highlight or put a little star next to the multiplication boxes you weren't sure about or you want me to explain. There should be a few. There should be a few where you're not really sure where I'm getting those numbers from, and that's okay. So make sure you do that for me. And now they're going to ask us again, rational versus irrational. So I'm going to take my highlighter or my colored pencil or whatever I have. I'm going to talk about and highlight all the boxes that are rational. All right, that means I'm avoiding anything that has a square root left in it or a pi symbol. So avoid anything with square root or a pi, and we'll highlight everything else. All right, and now that you have the table highlighted, make sure that I didn't skip anything. Remember, I'm only highlighting the things that do not have pi or square roots left in them. If you will answer questions G, H, and I, the exact same way we did the last set of questions, try to answer G, H, and I. So just based on what it's asking, paired together and given always, sometimes, or never answer. You can even give some examples if you want to, but just try to answer those questions, and that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow.